Welcome to today's webinar, Church360 Ledger, Checks, and Payees. If for some reason you do not hear the audio or you have trouble seeing the video, please put something in the checkbox or in the question box to let me know that. So we'll begin here with the Church360 Ledger, Checks, and Payees webinar. My name is Dave Farnham, and I'm a software consultant here with Concordia Technology Solutions. You can see my contact information on the screen, and feel free to contact me if I can be of assistance. A little bit of housekeeping with today's webinar. The webinar will last about 25 minutes in length. You can ask questions throughout. There'll be a time for questions at the end, and then also I will answer the questions at the end of the webinar, so feel free to ask them all throughout the webinar. And then the recording will be shared, so if you'd like to view this again, you can watch this again at a later time. We'll send that out to you, and for those that may have signed up that could not attend for one reason or another, we'll share that with them as well. The training outline for today's webinar will be looking at payees, and we'll kind of give a definition of a payee. What is a payee? We'll look at entering payees. We'll look at checks and check printing. Look a little bit at transaction management, how to void transactions, and how to make reoccurring transactions. So we'll look also at the general ledger report in addition to that. So as we're looking at payees, first of all, let's tackle the definition of what is exactly a payee. Now, a payee in Ledger really is defined as any person, company, or organization who receives a check, payment, or other disbursement of money from your congregation, including employees. The checks within Church360 Ledger, what does that do? Well, it allows the users to print checks and to record handwritten checks. And they're used for paying bills, the church bills, and or payroll. And you can order your checks from formsplusinc.com, which we'll take a look at as we go through the webinar itself. We'll take a look at where that is and how you can order from there. In regards to voiding transactions inside a Church360 Ledger, some things to keep in mind. When you void something, what is that? Well, it cancels the effects of the transaction that was just entered. And you can use the void button inside the transaction to do so. Voiding a transaction also creates a hidden and reversing transaction and groups those two transactions together. And another thing that is very important about when you void a transaction within Ledger, this voiding of that transaction cannot be undone. So once it's done, you cannot reverse that void. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and get things switched over into that. So bear with me just a moment. I'm going to turn off this camera here, and then we're going to get things turned over here into the website itself. All right, so we should be able to see the Ledger website here, and this is the login for the Ledger website. And this is just a sample Ledger website. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and log in. Now, whenever you log in, it is a secure login. The website is secure, and it will keep the permissions that have been granted to whoever it is that is logging in. So the church is the one that makes the security of each login. So you can give access to a person based upon what you wish them to do and or see within the Ledger software. So it'll automatically take you to what is called a home screen. And at the top here, we'll just go over a few of the icons just across the top. So this $sign in the orange here at the top left, This is an icon that will always take you back to the home page. To the right of that is a link to our set of books. Now, most churches will only have one set of financial books, but it is possible to have multiple sets of financial books. So I'm going to ask a question here. Can you all see, hopefully you can see the screen. I'm hoping that you'll be able to see the screen without a problem. So let me know if there's something visually that you cannot see within the webinar. All right, so we're going to go across here to the top. In this one that my cursor is over the top of here, this is a check printing queue. We'll take a look at that as we go through here. To the right of that is our pending transactions. To the right of that icon is our reports icon. And to the right, this little cog here is our settings cog, which we will go into in just a moment. And to the far right at the top is our user settings, where you can change your user password and or you can log out of the software. So we're going to go over here into our settings, and we're going to come down here into the settings and go down to the payees. So when we click on the payees, it's going to list all of our payees, and they will be listed alphabetically. So if you need to go into any particular payee, you can certainly click on that payee, or if you need to find a payee, you can go to the filter area and just enter a few characters, and it will quickly find the payee that you're looking for. So you can just page down typically to find the one that you need, and or for today's purposes, we're going to look at, well, how do I add a payee? That's actually down here at the bottom of the screen, and we'll click on the button, the blue button here called Add a New One. So when we come in here to add a new one, we'll just add in all the pertinent information here that we need to in regards to this payee. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in a new payee. So I'll enter this into the field. So put the address, the name, we'll put this in here, and we'll put the phone number in there as well. Okay, so in the notes field, you might wonder what that notes field is for. That could be any information that's good to know about this particular payee. So for instance, in this one for us, we have a contact person, so I'm going to put that, our contact is Shelly, and she is at extension 1102. So that might be good information for anybody else to know that that's our contact person, and we'll go ahead and submit and add that in, so that you'll notice at the top there that says the payee was created, and you'll be able to see that there, and I can close that out. So whenever you've added or changed content in there, typically you're going to get at the top a little message that says exactly that it was saved or whatever you've done has been completed, so you'll be able to know that that was done. Now you'll see this here at the bottom, so at the bottom we'll see that it says Walmart. That's the one that I entered. Now what if you need to edit anything about a pre-existing payee that you've entered in before? So you can come on here to Missouri American Water, just click on that, and now basically you're in the edit mode, so you can change anything that you need to in regards to that. Clicking on the X will again close that out, not delete it, but close it out. Now how do you delete a payee? Well, you can come and basically almost do the same thing. You're going to come over here, instead of clicking on the actual name of it, you're going to come in here and click on the minus sign. So On this one, you'll notice that it does not, after you click on the minus sign, it does not say delete. And the reason why it doesn't say delete on this one is because there has been some forms of transactions that have taken place within this particular payee. This happens to be a person who has received a paycheck. So with that, we don't want to lose the history of transactions and what has taken place within this payee. So it will only allow us to deactivate this payee, not to delete this payee. So we don't want to lose all of that history. That would be not a good thing and not a good practice. So we allow you to be able to deactivate them. It will keep the history of that, but it will deactivate them. And what that deactivation means is that whenever you go to make any other transaction, let's say, for example, a check, Rebecca Haywood would not come up as a possibility to enter in as a payee because she's been deactivated. You can also certainly reactivate her if you needed to in the future. So the other thing that you can do, like this one that we just started with Walmart, on this one, when I click on the minus sign on that one, it does give me the option to delete them. Why? And that's because there is no history with them. With Rebecca, there is history. So I could actually click on that, and you're going to be able to see the transaction history, what has taken place for her within the year. And again, you can export this information, you could print it, or this is the date range of what we're seeing as far as transaction history within this particular payee. So you can change the dates in here, the quarter of that year, a month of that year, or you can choose an exact date range. And that's with this date range selector that we'll find here. And you find that in most areas of Ledger, you'll see these three options here too. So that, now we've just been able to see how we can add a payee, how we can deactivate one, how we can edit one, and or how we can delete one. So again, deleting can only take place if you have no transaction history whatsoever with that particular payee. It will give you the action to delete them. Other than that, it's just deactivate. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go up to this blue button up here at the top, and we're going to click on Transaction, New Transaction. And as today's, we're looking at checks and payees, we're going to come down here to check. So with check, once we've come in here, we're going to first create something. And I'm going to create two different checks. The first check I'm going to create is going to be like a payroll check. So with this, I'm going to come in here into the memo, and I'm going to say, what is this particular check for? So I'm going to say that this is a payroll for September. I'm going to keep it as today's date, and I'm going to add it for a particular payee. Now notice when I start to enter in information about the payee, it's going to find anything that's related to what I've already started to enter in. So you can enter in a brand new payee on the fly when you're entering in a check. But I think the best practice is certainly to go into a payee first and to enter all the pertinent information about that particular payee and that account into the payee area first. Other than that, it's just a blank name as a payee. You can do it, but the best practice is to go ahead and add them into the payee area first. So now that they're already there and I can see that it's selected Derek, I'm going to go ahead and select him because that is correct. Now if you're going to immediately print your check, you could go ahead and put the check number in this check number field. However, many of the times I think it's a better practice to be able to just leave that blank, and then when you're actually going to put your checks in your printer, you know the exact check, and right before you go to print that check, it gives you the option to fill in that check number at that time. So I think that's the best practice for most to do. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say which money, where's the money going to come from, which asset fund. So for us, we're going to choose the unrestricted central trust checking. And I'm going to go in here and say we're going to pull this out of here. Whoops, I'm sorry. Just overrode that, so I'm going to check on that, and then I'm going to put in the amount field. All right, and then I'm also going to put in here for some other, like this federal income tax, and I'm going to add the amount in there for that needs to come out, and then I'm going to put in here the next one is the state. So I'm going to put in the state income tax. And then we have our Social Security. Again, these are already liabilities that have been set up before. And then Medicare. And I'm going to enter in that amount. Now, you'll notice what it does is it adds up every one of these here in this left-hand column, and then the expense or liability over on the right, which actually is going to be an expense for us, it gives me the total. Now, for this one, we're going to put this in the proper expense. And so this is going to be for our salaries. So it's our staff salary. He's part of the staff. And I can click on that expense, and then it totals out here. Now, I do want to show you at the bottom, as the middle part here is the actual check. So you can see what that looks like here. So your memo is filled out, your name and all the information about your payee is there, and the date, and then the account information down here. So your credits and debits will totally are matching, and it puts them in the correct columns for you. And that's the nice thing about Ledger, is that if you follow through there, it's automatically going to do that for you and put the debits and credits correctly in there. Now, what if I was just a little bit off here? It's going to show me that I'm 2 cents off in that, and I need to appropriate those 2 other cents somewhere. If I were to go to save it, you would see that it's going to give me an error, and it says that this is the total, but yet it doesn't. Your debits don't equal the total, so you need to appropriate the other 2 cents there. So at this point in time, once I do that, now you'll see that everything has an equal balance, and you'll be able to do that. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And then you'll see at the top here, again, this message at the top says, the check was added to your print queue. Now I can click on this and it will take me to my print queue, which we will go to in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and close this out now. I'm going to create one more transaction. So I'm going to go down here, New Transaction, and do a check. So here's what we're going to do on this one. We're going to add a new one, and we're going to call this, we're paying our bill for the August electric. So that's our bill for our August electric bill. We're going to keep that as today's date, and we're going to put in here our electric, where we pay our electric. So you'll see as I put this in here, it matches up with Ameren as I start to type in a few characters there. Gives me what matches that. And then I can put this in here. So I'm going to leave the check field blank, and I'm going to say where it's going to come out of. So again, I'm going to pull it out of that unrestricted asset account for my central trust checking, put in my amount here, and then I'm going to pull it out of a proper expense account. So I have an expense account called electric, which I'm going to pull out there, and again you can see the check, and then you can see the proper debits and credits. So 228.53 from my asset to my expense, and everything matches out. Now, what if I wanted to make this a recurring then I can click on this option here to make recurring. Now for me in this example, it wouldn't be every single week, but it might be. Well, let's just go ahead and click on this anyway, so we can see other options. Single, other, third, fourth, but I might keep it every single, but I might change this to month. So if you have just an annual payment, you'll be able to know how to do that here too. So every single month, and it could be on the third Thursday of each month. So it gives you options of what you can do with this. You can also put it on certain days as well. So if you wanted to create that, you could do that. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel because I'm not going to be doing that. And I'm just going to click save. All right, so it's in there and we've got it in our print queue. So now, where is our print queue? It's at the top here, and it's this icon right here that we're looking at. So I'm going to click on this print queue, and we're going to be able to see some of the things that we have in here. So we'll be able to see the Derek Woods, and this is the amount we just did for payroll, and the other one that we did is for Ameren Electric, and that's for our August Electric. So both of these are in our print queue, waiting to be printed. So we can come in here if we want to print them, and we can select that one. Notice that now it will give us some options up here at the top. We can just simply mark as printed. So this is something that if you are just saying that I'm not going to actually print the check from my software, I'm just going to, I just want to register that this check has been paid, you can just click on mark as printed. And so it's going to register that that was printed and that that transaction is complete now. Or you can click on the print button. So if I click on the print button, now you'll see how I have my checks laid out. And notice if I go up here to the top and click on the print button at the top center, remember how earlier we talked about that if you don't put the check number in there, it's perfectly fine, because right before you go to print the check, you'll be given the option to actually fill in the proper number, proper check number for that check that you're printing. So this is the place to do that. And again, I think it's probably the best practice until you get to printing that check, that you put in the proper check at that time. You'll load your checks into the printer, and then you'll be able to say, okay, I'm going to confirm that, and it's going to go in here, and now I can print my check. So this is what it will look like, and you'll just go ahead and click print, and you've got that there. So if everything looked good on that, then you're set to go, and then at that point in time, you can go ahead and clear this check from your print queue. You would just now click on mark as printed. However, if for some reason you had a printing mishap and you needed to print another check, again, you can do so before you clear this out. You can go and reprint that check, and again, you can change the number on that check to be a different number if you needed to at that point in time. Now that I've done this correctly, I'm going to go ahead and click as mark as printed. And it says one check will be removed from the print queue. And I'll confirm that. So now that is removed. So we've got that taken care of. And then now I'm going to go back here to our home, the home page, again by clicking on this orange with the white $ in it. And that's going to bring me over here. So now I'll see the transactions that have taken place, and we'll see this for what's happened and taken place today. The Ameren Electric check that was printed and is ready now to be mailed. So this is already good to go, and you can see what's taken place with this. Now, what if you needed to void this transaction, if it was a mistake? Well, you can, sorry about that, you can come in here and click into that particular check again, and you'll notice that there is a void button here, and you can put in an actual memo with that void. So this is again where you would void that particular check. And then again, if you go back in time and you realize that maybe one of your transactions you really do need to make into a recurring one, you can make it recurring. Notice that you also have a copy the check. So if you know that I need to do this is exactly the same way, you can actually copy that check. And it wouldn't be the exact check number, of course, but it would copy exactly how you've done a previous transaction for a check. So you'll notice the icons here. These are showing us that these are checks that are in our check printer queue yet to be printed. So they're sitting in that, again, this check print queue. So that's where they are, and that's what that is right there. Now let's take a look at our balance sheet. I'm sorry. General ledger is what we want to look at. So we're going to take a look at a general ledger. Now this is going to show us different things that we've done. So when we've done here, we've put in the check for the Ameren Electric today. We've also done this payroll check basically for Derek Woods. So those are the things that we have completed and done today. And then look down here further, because what this is, really, this is a void. So anytime you see, like in your general ledger, you're going to see a void, it's going to show up kind of in a red or a pinkish color here and be highlighted. So that happened on 9/11. And you can see that that was the Gleason's Lawn and Landscaping. You can also see that on your home page. When we go down here onto the 11th, you're going to see here that this was voided on 9/11. So that's what happens. You kind of have a little circle with a line through it, kind of like a no, and that indicates that this particular item was voided, and that's what happens there. So now we've been able to take a look at that to say, to see how we add a payee, how we can change a payee and edit their information, how we can deactivate or delete a payee, and how we can enter in a check and or void a transaction if we need to. Now, the other thing that I do want to show you is in regards to the different checks. So we do have different checks, and again, you can purchase them from a place called Forms Plus. So Forms Plus Inc. will get us there, and again, you can, they do a number of different things that you can get printed from there, but they do our checks, and I'll show you. This is an example of our Ledger Church360 middle check. So it gives you an idea of what that looks like. And then there is also a top check. So those are examples there of the checks that will print from your Church360 ledger directly onto the check when it's put into your printer. How do you change that within Ledger? And that's by going here to the settings area and clicking down to the general settings. And this is a check style. This is where you can change that from the top check to a middle check. So whichever style check you have, and again, you can also have the checks that have the 2 signatures in them too. So you can put a check mark there if you have 2 signatures that are required on yours, and so that's why you just buy the appropriate check that would have 2 signatures on there. and then make your check mark here to say that we have 2 signatures on our check. So as we've looked at everything here, this is really everything there is with our Church360 ledger as far as payees and checks, and I'm going to switch screens here just a moment and point out just a few things in regards to ledger. If you already have ledger, I'm going to encourage you to go back to the Church360 ledger website and then sign up for the blog, because there is a lot of different updates, important information that you don't want to miss. And again, you're not going to get a lot of like weekly or daily, anything like that, but just updated information about Church360 ledger that's important for you to know as a user. You can get additional help from Church360 ledger in the help articles by going to this particular link here, and that's going to give you additional help. As you'll see here, it's going to take you to the site where you can get more additional help on different parts of the ledger software. So I'm going to go back here. There are training manuals that are available. We do have one training manual for ledger. It is a bound manual. It's available for $25 plus shipping. So you can find some of that information again online on the it will list that there on that. And again, here is my contact information. So if I can be of help for you, you can feel free to contact me. If you're using Church360 ledger currently, you may want to talk with those that are on our software support team, and their information is here on the screen, support@cts.cph.org, or you can reach them directly by phone by 800-346-6120. I'm going to check to see if anybody has any questions. I don't see that there's been any questions that have been submitted. If you do have any, feel free to go ahead and ask them now. And I'll wait just a minute to see if there are any questions that are going to be asked. Again, I don't see any questions that are asked, but I'll just go back to the screen here. So you may want to jot this number down if you don't already have it, but this is our software support team's phone number, 800-346-6120. And their email is support@cts.cph.org. Now there is a help button in the bottom of the ledger website when you're logged in. It's a little blue round icon with a little eye in the middle of it. You can always click on that and submit a question that will go into our software support team, and they'll get back with you with any answers that you might need for your questions. So again, I thank you so much for attending today. I hope this has been helpful for you in learning a little bit more about payees and also checks within Church360 ledger. And I'm going to sign off for now. And again, thanks for attending and for being a part of the Church360 ledger today. Hope you have a great day.